All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today. And, well, it's something that, well, it affects every single one of us, really. We're talking about population change.
Population
So
changes.
we've got this, what's a really cool map, actually. It shows global population density, and we've also got this document here, and it really breaks down all the reasons why populations grow, or shrink, for that matter.
Right.
And I got to say, looking through this stuff, some of these reasons are, well, they're not what you might expect. At least that's how it was for me.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this map, right, it's incredible how much variation there is from one place to another.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, you look at places like India
Hmm.
or Eastern China, for instance, and it's just, well, those places are just lit up. I mean, they're extremely dense. And then you have these other areas, vast stretches, I mean, like the Sahara Desert,
Right.
and it's practically empty.
Yeah. I mean, it really makes you realize, when you look at it visually like that, it really makes you realize that where people choose to live, well, it's not random at all.
Exactly, yeah. And that's where this idea of population density really comes in. I mean, it's not just about like the raw number of people in a certain area, right?
Right.
It's also how squeezed together everyone is.
Right. Right.
So you think about a place like Tokyo, I mean, they've got those capsule hotels over there
I've seen those, yeah.
and the crowds everywhere
Oh, yeah.
versus, I don't know, like a small rural town where your neighbors might be miles away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
And that density, it really influences, well, pretty much everything. Everything from apartment prices to, even like how public transport is designed,
Yeah.
all kinds of things.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah,
So basically, when we say densely populated, we mean lots of people packed into a small space.
exactly.
And then sparsely populated is the opposite.
Yep.
Kind of makes you think, though, right? Like, how would you even classify where you live?
That is a good question. And, it's on top of where people actually are, we also have to think about like how populations actually change over time.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's where we get into things like birth rate, death rate, and migration.
Right.
Birth rate, that's pretty straightforward. It's just, how many babies are born per like 1,000 people every year.
Makes sense.
Death rate, same idea,
Okay.
but with deaths.
Right.
And then you got migration. That's basically just people moving around. Could be within the same country or across borders.
Yeah. Yeah.
Moving, yeah.
So, for me at least, when I think about population growth, the first thing that comes to mind is, like families having tons of kids.
Yeah.
Just, booming
Big
families.
families, yeah.
Lots of babies, yeah. But this document, it's saying it's way more nuanced than that.
Oh, for sure.
Like having enough food,
Yeah. Yeah.
or decent housing.
Yeah.
Stable income, like those kinds of things. Those are all huge factors too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, those things, they really become what we call pull factors. Like think about the gold rush.
Oh, right.
Back in the day, people were flooding into California because there was like this chance they might strike it rich.
Yeah.
It was a big pull factor back then. And nowadays, it might be something like, I don't know, like a booming tech hub.
Yeah.
That attracts talented people from all over.
Right.
All these positive things, they make a place magnetic.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So pull factors bring people in.
Mm-hmm.
But what about when populations shrink?
Okay, yeah.
The document mentions some more obvious things like higher death rates and people moving away.
Right.
But it also talks about some some pretty heavy stuff too.
Yeah.
Like lack of clean water
Mm-hmm.
and wars. Disease is spreading.
For sure.
I mean, that's serious.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are what we call the push factors. They're the things that, well, they make people desperate enough to actually leave a place. I mean, imagine fleeing your home, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a war going on.
Yeah.
Or maybe because there's just like no way for you to make a living there.
Right.
I mean, this document, it actually gives a really powerful example of this.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, it does. There's a story about, let me see here. Oh, yeah, here it is. It's about this family that they had to flee their home in Syria.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because of the war, they lost everything, their home, their jobs, everything. They had to leave with basically just the clothes on their backs, and it was really dangerous too. They had to travel for like weeks, I think. through all kinds of just dangerous territory just to get to safety.
Oh man, that's often.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think about all these factors, how they're all intertwined,
Yeah.
like a chain reaction.
It is. It is.
And the document, I mean, it lists so many. Escaping persecution, finding better jobs, reuniting with family. I mean, it's clearly more than just economics. It's deeply human.
Absolutely. And it all ties into these big global issues too,
Yeah.
Like migration patterns are changing. You got cities that are just exploding in size. Even,
Mhm.
I mean, even international relations are influenced by how populations shift and change.
Right. Huh.
It really makes you wonder, how is climate change going to impact all this?
Oh, that's a good question.
Like where are people going to be forced to move from?
Yeah.
Where will they end up?
Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
It is. It is.
So we covered a lot of ground here.
We did.
Population density, how packed together people are,
Mm-hmm.
birth and death rates, migration,
Yeah,
and all those powerful push and pull factors that are driving it all.
for sure.
Before we go, I'm kind of curious. How do you think all these forces we talked about, how are they shaping your own community?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, like what kind of changes are you seeing? Or what do you think the future might hold?
Yeah.
Just food for thought.
Food for thought.
Anyway, thanks for diving deep with us today. And keep those brain gears turning.
Yeah, keep thinking.